Copyright 2000. TRS Direct, all rights reserved. And HLNFI. Table of Contents. Introduction, Learning to Survive 5 Secret 1, Zones of Awareness 13 Secret 2, Philosophy 17 Secret 3, First Moves 23 Secret 4, Finish Moves 31 Secret 5, Against Weapons 42 Bonus Section. Introduction. Convey Learning to Survive. My name is Dr. Russell Horine, and I am about to introduce you to a world the vast majority of civilians will never know exists. It's the world inhabited by professional soldiers, serious street fighters, government black bag operatives and inner-city cops, all of who face violence and danger every day, and deal with it in ways you could never discover on your own. But the purpose of this special report is not to wow you with the exploits of men in real combat. No. The purpose of this special report is much more serious, and much more personal to you. Think of it this way: if you were in a situation where, exactly 1 short hour from now, you had to go out and face someone who wanted to kill you, then reading this report is exactly the way you'd want to spend that hour. In 1 hour, you will know more than 99% of American men about surviving dangerous situations and fighting to win. My wish is that this report becomes a standard part of every good man's wardrobe. -1 Want to see scuffed and dog-eared copies of it inside executives' briefcases, on the nightstands of family men, and in the knapsacks of young men just going out into the cold, cruel world. What you learn here is more than self-defense, it's tactical, sir. And, it's the most important thing you will ever read the rest of your life. I know what you're thinking: where do I get off saying this? Well, the answer is simple: I run an international company that has put me in constant close quarters contact with the most dangerous men in the world. Sometimes these men find us, sometimes we seek them out. We have over 24 respected, famous and feared fighting experts in our stable of talent. And I will introduce you to them throughout this report. You'll meet, for example, Paul Vunak, who the Navy SEALs sought out to teach them hand-to-hand combat when the training they got via the standard Navy channels was found to be inadequate. Paul is widely known among the martial arts crowd as the man who picked up Jeet Kune Do, the most elite of martial arts, where Bruce Lee left off. Bruce Lee, you may or may not know, was the most famous martial artist in the world at one time, but soon after he went to Hollywood to do Enter the Dragon, he met an untimely death. You'll meet Tom Proctor, a mild, rather small and unassuming man pushing 50 with a sweet tem. The best, for non-martial artists who want to handle real-life self-defense situations like black belts. Men's Journal March, 2000 Paramount, who is nevertheless undefeated in illegal pit fights, for money, against larger, meaner, and more skilled opponents. You'll meet Vladimir Vasiliev, a former Russian super soldier in the elite Spetsnaz secret service of the Russian army, so well trained in every aspect of combat that even the dreaded KGB were terrified of them. When Vladimir escaped to Canada from Russia, everybody wanted him, including the US military, eager to learn his combat secrets, but he came to us. And you'll meet many more Army Ranger Double Tour frontline veterans of Vietnam, officers from the famous Delta Force that fought in Grenada, bounty hunters working the most dangerous markets in the country. Big city SWAT cop trainers, heavily decorated former Green Berets who, as civilians, were invited into the war room during Desert Storm for their dirty tricks expertise. Prison guards from the toughest insane war jails in the world, winners of the pay-per-view Ultimate Fighting Challenge cage fighting events, which are so bloody they're about to be banned in this country. Deep government black bag operatives for hyper-secretive agencies the public never hears about, assassins, street fighters, bodyguards, and knife-fighting experts. And a few more who simply defy description, because what they do is so unbelievable to civilians who think the world is really a nice place without horror or bloodshed. What's all this mean to you? Plenty. My company, TRS, is the only place in the entire world where this kind of over-the-top expert talent has ever been assembled. Many of these guys don't like each other, most are loners and pretty unsociable, and a lot them are active, meaning they are fighting full-time, teaching full-time, or serving hot duty in the trenches full-time. None of these guys are philosophers. They have spent their entire lives learning how to fight to win, and every single one of them has been in the shit, as combat veterans like to call all-out hand-to-hand fighting. You may be shocked to learn that the majority of storefront karate schools are run by men who have never actually been in a fist fight before, let alone life or death combat. Do you know anyone who has a storefront black belt in anything? Pity him, my friend, because he wouldn't survive 2 seconds against an experienced street fighter. Real fighters laugh at storefront black belt martial artists. Vasiliev, Vladimir Vasiliev is a master of covered combat arts. A former member of the elite Russian Spetsnaz, Vladimir is the real deal. His prowess and intelligence landed him in the Soviet Special Forces program. Only 1 in 3,000 Russian soldiers qualify for this branch of the army. His entry into the Moscow Military Institute forever solidified him as one of the world's best trained and most deadly soldiers. Vladimir has trained against the KGB's units in live battle scenarios, hunting, stalking and subduing each other. He even had to fight his way out of military prison work camps as part of his training. To call Vladimir Vasiliev a master martial artist would be an understatement. He is a fighting specialist with a if you ever are in a situation where your life is at stake or the lives of your loved ones, you will bless the day you discovered this report. Because what you are about to learn comes from the experience of men who have faced situations 1,000 times more deadly and horrible than you could ever imagine. And who walked away the victor. Because they knew the secrets of fighting to win. Some have been shot, stabbed, beaten with hammers and steel-toed boots. And felt the life slip away from an opponent. They know the face of death and the blood and sweat of real combat. Think about that when you see the secrets they are about to share with you. We're going to cover 5 categories here. In TRS Vasiliev packages include, Russian fighting system, holds, releases and attacks, defense against weapons, and Russian ground fighting knack for teaching that may be unparalleled. Many of his students has sworn up and down that he has a force field around him. Numerous covert military operations and power rescues deep into enemy territory make him the master. My job running this company, I have been in the catbird seat where I could see the best of the best doing their stuff, and over the last 10 years I've been slowly putting this report together with just one idea in mind, to take someone, perhaps like you, who has no fighting experience whatsoever. No special skills, no physical advantages of size or agility, and no killer instinct, and give you a set of skills you can learn quickly and without intense training. So, if you ever are confronted with danger, you will not just have a fighting chance, but you will also now know the same secrets used by the best fighters on the planet to survive and win in crunch time. Most American men never learn to fight. A handful take some boxing at the YMCA, or a couple years worth of bullshit karate, or learn a few tricks while trading punches in high school fist fights. Most people have no idea what a real fight even looks like, until they're suddenly in one, and Hollywood has fed the myths with increasingly ridiculous examples of staged brawls. It's too bad, too. A lot of men watch Arnold or the training is exactly at street-level intensity, a real fighting tool for real life. James Pomerantz, 37 professional bodyguards Sly or Siegel or Chan stomp bad guys on film and think, yeah, I can do that. Let me tell you right now, you can't. There are bad guys out there who have spent every waking second of their miserable lives learning dirty tricks and evil moves meant to send you into an instant world of unbearable pain so they can rob you and do horrible things to your family. The real bad guys out there don't wait for you to hit them first, they don't play fair, and they love it when you step back and throw a John Wayne-style roundhouse punch their way. You'll be on the ground before your fist passes your shoulder. Get this straight, right now. You can't wait until you're in trouble to learn how to defend yourself. It's too late at that point. The bullying criminals of this modern world aren't getting in your face because they want to play around. They want your money. And, according to the FBI, there's a very good chance they will kill you after getting it just for the thrill of watching you die. They want your car. And will cripple you for life if you don't move fast enough. They want to hurt, rape, torture and kill, and if you think that being a nice guy will save your ass from this reality, please throw this report away right now. I don't have time for guys who are deluded. The world ain't safe, and may never be. The main job of the police is mopping up after a crime has been committed. They don't even pretend to be able to prevent a crime from happening to you anymore. And even if you dial 911 immediately, they won't get to you until the worst is over. You're on your own, whether you realize it or not. The smart guys realize it, and do something about it. That's why you ordered this report. You lock your doors at night for a good REA. Son, and you simply can never know when you'll turn a street corner and be face to face with the most dangerous situation of your life. It can happen in a family movie theater parking lot, in the restroom of a nice restaurant, at a downtown stoplight in broad daylight, at the local grocery store, at your bank, your park, your favorite burger drive-thru, your front yard, or in your house late at night. And as a man, you have responsibilities no one told you about, but you know you have them just the same. No one had to tell you. It's just your job, as a man, to protect your family and loved ones from danger. You can bring home a fat paycheck, love your kids and wife more than life itself, keep up a nice house and be kind to neighbors and dogs and go to church twice on Sunday. But if Vunak, Paul, the first Navy SEAL combat instructor Paul Vunak, can turn anyone into a potent hand-to-hand fighter, his name may not ring any bells with you, but SEALs, FBI, CIA and a dozen police department SWAT teams certainly know him. He is without question one of the most respected and dangerous men in the world at hand-to-hand combat, teaching it, and using it. Paul has studied with the legendary Dan Inocencio, original partner of martial art legend Bruce Lee, in the art of Jeet Kune Do. Paul, who is the internationally acknowledged master of Jeet Kune Do, is considered as the man who went on where Bruce Lee tragically left off. For over 20 years, Paul has mixed it up with every sort of expert you can imagine. And in thousands of situations where his life was on the line. You can't protect the people who rely on you when it counts. Then you failed as a man. Look, I'm not trying to scare or insult you. 10 years ago, I didn't have a clue what I would do if I was suddenly thrust into a dangerous situation. I just didn't know, and didn't think about it. I wish to God there was a report like this one out then. I was lucky I never had to confront my own inadequacies as a protector. But a good friend of mine, also a health professional, did. He got jumped, for absolutely no reason at all, by 3 punks while walking to his car. They didn't want his money, didn't want his car, didn't want anything but to stomp him into the ground. He didn't know what to do, never raised a hand in defense, and went to the ground in a fetal position, where he was kicked into unconsciousness. Woke up in the hospital, and State TRS has produced 3 simple and easy to learn video packages with Paul Vunak, including Street Safe, Street Safe 2, and the RAT Interactive Training System. The U.S. Navy SEALs asked Paul to teach them his unique system after an exhaustive search worldwide for the best hand-to-hand combat fighting system in existence. You will be amazed at how simple and easy to learn Paul's devastating system really is. There for 4 painful weeks. The punks wouldn't have cared if they'd killed him, they just wanted their fun. I saw what the attack did to my friend. It crippled him physically. But far worse was what happened to him emotionally. It just devastated him. Took away his self-confidence, his sense of humor, his sense of being a man. That's one of the reasons I got into this business of dealing with deadly men. And it paid off almost immediately, as I'll explain below. And I have no doubt whatsoever my wife and kids are safe and healthy and happy today because I took the time to learn a few simple survival and fighting secrets. Here's how I constructed this report. I watched these fighters do their stuff, trained with many of them, and spent countless hours talking with them. They don't open up easily. But, after a while, after sharing drinks, and listening carefully, and asking the same questions over and over until I got the answer I wanted, they finally fessed up. This system teaches you what will work in a street fight. Berry Street, 26 what I was looking for, and, again, it took 10 long years to put this report together were the simple, easy to learn, and really effective skills and strategies that these guys actually use in real fights. Not the moves that take a while to master, and are quickly forgotten without intensive training. Not the moves that you have to work your way into, that take agility or strength or endless drilling. Nope. I wanted only the stuff that could be quickly picked up, quickly learned, easily understood, and actually used by guys like you and me. I kept asking myself, could I explain this to a guy who'd never fought before, who was out of shape, with no special skills, and explain it in under an hour, and be confident he could use it effectively in crunch time? If anything didn't pass this easy and simple test, I didn't want it in this report. So, what you hold in your hands is the world's first compilation of insider fighting skills and secrets and tactics, used by the most feared and respected and successful fighters in the world. And it's all so amazingly simple. You can take 1 short hour to study this report, and use what you learn immediately. In that short hour which you've already begun, you will go from 0 to 60 without looking back. You will know more about real hand-to-hand combat than 99% of other men. You will be a member in the most elite club in the universe, the club of warriors with actual fighting skills and knowledge. You will finally know the most closely guarded secrets of the best fighting men anywhere. So let's get started. As I said, there are 5 categories I want to cover with you. Each is critically important. The first 2 are about what goes on in your head, what we call the warrior mindset. Very important and, in most cases, all you'll ever need. The final 3 categories are hardcore, but incredibly simple, physical skills you can use in a fight to get away, to gain thinking time, to make your attacker stop and think twice. And, if necessary, to put him down, so he won't get up again to cause you problems. West, Jim, anyone can talk fighting, and a lot do. But only a real fighter like Jim West can show you how to survive and win in the real world. Jim has actually been in over 600 bloody hand-to-hand street fights, and won every single one of them decisively. Jim earned a half a dozen Operation Desert medals in Iraq during Operation Desert Storm. He was even invited into the top-secret Marine War Room to help plan offensive strikes. He spent 15 years in the black bag arm of the Green Berets, earning him the coveted Whiskey 9 top-secret clearance that only the best of the best soldiers ever receive. He trains special forces in hostage rescue and Justice Department agents in hand-to-hand combat. All of that special training aside, Jim knows how some of this is pretty vicious, so consider yourself forewarned. But do not be deluded, that is the real thing. It's not playtime anymore. I have assigned myself the task of educating you about the realities and tactics of handling yourself in dangerous situations, and damn it, that's what I'm gonna do. All you need to do is pay attention. TRS has had the honor of producing Jim West's Fight to Win video series, which shows you how to end a fight quickly. To quickly train people like you and me in the dark art of truly nasty, vicious Norilsk fighting. There are no rules of fair play in real-life street fighting, and Jim West knows how to fight to win. CONTFLNRV% zones of awareness. Here we go, your zones of awareness. The very first and easiest thing we teach anyone getting into this stuff is how to bring your awareness up to speed. Cops, soldiers, street fighters, agents, they all take this for granted, but they too had to learn it early in their chosen careers. Most people walk around in a state of unawareness. In other words, they are oblivious to the world around them. That's how you get carjacked and robbed. The bad guys love it when they spot someone wandering around the street not paying attention to their surroundings. That makes their job so much easier. So, the first thing you must do is learn to adopt the zones of awareness that professionals use to stay on top of the world around them. Each group has its own way of describing these zones. Some call them states, or even lines in the sand. But it all comes down to the same thing, fine-tuning your sense of what's going on around you. Here are the general 4 states you need to know about. A. White. This is the ostrich with his head in the sand. He shopper hauling armloads of groceries out to her car without noticing who's around her. The guy strolling down the street with his girlfriend oblivious of who's following. You at home with the TV on and no idea of what's going on right outside your door. This is the state of unawareness most people exist in. They're in a world all to their own. When they walk into a restaurant or bar, they head straight to a table and sit down, and couldn't tell you whether the other patrons were yuppies, a gang of Hell's Angels, or talking dogs. Soldiers and cops are never in this state. It's simply too dangerous a way to live. Even when asleep, the professional has his antennae out, constantly aware of where he is and what's going on around him. This white state is the state of the victim. Completely oblivious, completely vulnerable. Be yellow. This is the resting state of the savvy man. Most civilians reach something like this state only immediately after being robbed or beaten up, and it's in the form of near hysterical paranoia. That's not a good thing. Better that you simply learn to be in the yellow state of casual awareness all the time. It's easy. You just stay aware of what's going on around you. If you're home, you notice when there's an unfamiliar noise inside the house, or out on the porch. You just register that something's different. Outside, you are aware who's around you on the street, inside a room, in the next room if you can. When you enter a bar or restaurant, you simply notice who the other people are, register any suspicious types, and stay aware of them and their movements. In a strange city, you jack up your yellow state even more, so you never suddenly find yourself in a bad part of town. You notice whether shops are open or closed, whether the buildings are run down or nice, whether the people around you are friendly or giving you the eye. The perfect yellow state is not paranoid, it's watchful. Aware. You become an active part of your surroundings. Here's a test, without looking up, can you describe the room you're in right now? The next time you go into a restaurant, sit down at your table upon first entering. And close your eyes now. Can you identify every other person in the place? As you walk down the street, without looking behind you, can you describe who's walking a few steps behind? You need to constantly check yourself for at least the next week before it will start to become a natural part of your awareness. But a casually aware yellow state is the resting state of the savvy man. This is the state professionals immediately go into when danger has reared its ugly head. If you're walking down the street, and you notice a guy following you, and you are sure he is about to accost you and cause trouble, you should immediately enter the red state. That is the state where you allow the adrenaline to pump, where you plan your moves, where you are totally prepared to act. Not understanding this be prepared for trouble state is why most civilians get into trouble when faced with someone ready to tear their head off, or asking for all their money, or grabbing their wife. The average civilian simply does not know what to do. He will get outraged, maybe angry, probably scared, but he will not have a clue what to do. The bad guys count on this. They use surprise and shock as their primary weapons, knowing most people will just freeze up and go into a state of inactive panic. The red state, however, allows you to instantly go into a state of mind where you will use what you know about self-defense, without hesitation. When your yellow state tells you the situation requires you to go into red, you shift gears and become a man ready for action. Black. This is the state of the professional at his most lethal. This is the combat soldier on Clewiston, Chris. When you take a hardened, skilled professional fighter, then go one step further. You get Chris Clugston. Chris fought professionally for many years. He was rated #1 in the world on Shoot Kickboxing in 1992, American Kickboxing Colorado champ for 2 years, and maximum total light heavyweight champ, despite fighting in a higher weight class. He has earned black belts in 5 different martial arts. He learned 7 different languages so he could travel to Russia and East Germany and beyond to learn the fighting breakthroughs they had discovered. He was among the first to learn the Soviet scientific-based skills that allow fighters to actually imprint devastating skills directly into your brain. Won the front line, the cop facing an armed suspect, the black bag agent coming up on his opponent. And, it's the regular guy at home, investigating a noise inside his house at night and coming across a bad guy there to hurt his family. When your yellow state flashes red, and as you prepare to take action you realize you must go to the wall to protect yourself or your loved ones. You must enter the black state. If, taking the bad guy out, you must use lethal force, then that's what you do. That's a quick overview of the states. Now, I want to talk to you about taking action. It's the hardest thing for a civilian to understand. Yet, knowing what it means will save your life. His skills and involvement with the Fringell-dwelling fighters around the world places Chris Clugston in the company of the most dangerous men on the planet. TRS has produced several instructional packages with Chris including Combat JKD, and Kame Bass. CONF greater than one philosophy I learned while training with local SWAT cops, about the concept of drawing a line in the sand. This has nothing to do with bluffing. What it means is, you have in mind a distance, a movement, or a change in the situation where you automatically decide to act. In your red state, this action may be, to leave. Just turn and walk away. To run. To break for the nearest exit and get the hell out of there. To confront. To breach the codes of politeness and say what do you want? Stop right there and tell me what you're doing. To attack. When the situation has gone beyond your other options, you do what you need to do to end the threat. The average guy doesn't know when to act. Someone gets in your face, or challenges you, or takes something of yours, or threatens your family, or breaks into your house at night. Most guys simply do not have a clue what to do next. Most guys live in that dumb Hollywood fantasy where because they are a decent guy they will somehow know what to do in the clutch. The truth is more brutal than that. The truth is, most guys will wander into the hallway at night, see a big guy standing there in a mask, and they will weep themselves in panic. Before they can make a move, they will get taken down, possibly be killed. Most guys are in denial about this. They talk about having that loaded gun next to the bed, and how they will blow away anyone they catch breaking into their house. But they won't. They will be utterly surprised, they will have no plan in their head, and if they shoot anyone it will be themselves in the foot or worse their visiting nephew sleepwalking. Have you ever investigated a noise in your house without taking a weapon with you? Most men have. What would you do if you found 1 or 2 guys in masks rummaging through your kitchen? Yell at them? Order them out? Threaten to call the police? You'd be laughed at? Or killed? Criminals all share the same philosophy, they are looking for the easy pickings. They go after the little old lady who looks defenseless, or the guy with his head in the clouds, or the house with the easy-to-pick locks. They do not lurk around looking to take on people who look like they can handle themselves. They do not necessarily want a fight, they want money. Or your wife. Those who want kicks may actually look for a fight, but they will pick you out only if they believe they can take you. And don't think your size will save you when you don't know how to fight, the bad guys can smell it on you. And in the real world, fighters know that size is irrelevant to who wins. Often, it's the big guy who goes down first. Most of the cops I know, after a year or 2 of experience, tell me they never want to fight the little guys. Too dangerous. So what does this mean in the real world? I have a personal story. Soon after I gave my family a little pep talk about being aware, my wife Helen and my 2 young sons, 4 and 6 years old, were in an underground parking lot, leaving a movie theater. Helen, in her new yellow state of awareness, noticed a man following them about 20 yards behind. She would have never noticed before, never looked around, never believed that trouble would ever stalk her and her kids. But she noticed this guy, and drew a line in the sand. She decided she would walk down the aisle they were in, cut across through some cars, and head for her car. And if the guy followed, she would act. He did follow them, silently cutting through the cars behind them, and as soon as Helen reached her car, she turned and stared directly at him. Just stared with purpose, letting him know he had been noticed and recognized. The result? He stopped, lowered his head, and quickly turned around and walked away. Helen got in the car and called security, and learned that someone had been carjacked in that parking lot the day before, and suspicious men had been reported lurking. I know this sounds almost like common sense, but it isn't. What would your wife or girlfriend have done in that situation? Would she even have knocked being followed? If she did notice, what would she have done? How about yourself? What would you do if, tonight, you were confronted with a threat of violence? Most guys, again, have this Hollywood idea that they just deck their assailant, somehow. The truth, and if you've ever been around a bar fight, you know this is more brutal. Here is how the professional handles it: if he can turn around and leave, he will. He doesn't need to prove anything to anyone, and doesn't need to fight, ever. If he can't simply leave, then he will run away. It is not cowardice to flee from sudden danger, it's often the most sensible thing to do. But you must know that you can do it. It must be part of your red awareness that you look for and always have an escape planned. If you can't run, if you have kids with you, or you can't outrun the danger, then confront the threat, putting the next move on him. My wife Helen, if staring the stranger down didn't work, would have said loudly, "Next stop right there. What do you want?" And she would have left no doubt that she was talking to him. It's true that most criminals do not to come up on their victims face to face, because they don't want to be recognized, and because they simply do not want Ellingson, Ray military specialists. He honed his skills as a hotshot skip chaser. Ray's current job is hunting down the nastiest criminals who skip bail in Los Angeles, the most dangerous market in the U.S. More than half of his takedowns are repeat violent offenders with rap sheets a mile long, thus ensuring that they involve serious violence. Cops love Ray. His specialized training has saved the lives of countless police officers and federal agents. His secret fighting skills are what it takes to survive and win a fight. 21 To interact in any way. Finally, at the very split second that all other options are no longer available, and the danger has forced the professional to go into fighting mode, he will stop all talk, stop all thought of escape, stop all negotiations. And right there, he will fight. My wife Helen now knows how to defend herself when attacked, knows how to improvise weapons, carries pepper spray in her purse. You, after reading this report, will have a good bag of tricks to use to defend yourself, too, and to use offensively when the situation demands action. Let me tell you what I learned from the SWAT cops about lines in the sand. Cops know that a bad guy with a knife is lethal within a certain number. Ray Ellingson is one of the most respected bounty hunters in the business. Against the new kind of criminal out there, Ray Ellingson allows you, the civilian, to own the skills that have made him untouchable. Of feet, between 10 and 20 feet, or the distance he can move in a heartbeat. It's a lot more distance than inexperienced people believe a man can move and kill with a blade, and the cops know this from unfortunate experience. Therefore, when confronting a suspect armed with a knife, the cop draws an imaginary line in the sand about 15 feet away. He orders the suspect to drop the knife. If the suspect doesn't respond, but doesn't move closer, the cop will negotiate. However, if the guy does move closer, even slowly, with the knife, and crosses that line in the sand, the cop will consider it a lethal attack and will use lethal force to counteract it. Cops learned this after losing officers who didn't realize how fast a man can move and stab, and who continued to negotiate while the suspect edged closer and then lunged. The cops didn't know where to draw the line between negotiation and action. Now they do. It's like a tripwire. My response to a threat is automatically triggered when that threat crosses a certain point. For example, if someone is in my house at night, with my family home, I will immediately use lethal force. Immediately. I will not talk to him, I will not identify him, I will not warn him. If I make a mistake, I am prepared to live with the consequences. But that person could only have gotten into my house, with my family home, after killing my dog outside, after disabling my alarm system, and after coming through locked entrances. This may seem shocking to you. In a white-zoned world where nothing bad can ever happen you, it would be shocking behavior. But we don't live in that world. Last week, in my town, there were a dozen burglaries, a homicide, several rapes, a carjacking, a couple of gang fights, a drive-by shooting. There are no areas in town that are free of crime. No one is armor-plated safe from worry. It's the opposite of being paranoid, actually. It's having the freedom from indecision that paralyzes most men. It's being absolutely confident about how to act in any situation, no matter how unexpected. It's being a man in a dangerous world. If I'm ever followed in a parking lot, as soon as I realize it I will turn and confront my follower. Stop right there. What do you want? If he doesn't stop, and I'm alone, I will run away. If I can't run, and he doesn't stop, will be on top of him like a horde of demons. I will not negotiate, I will not plead, I will not cower. And, I will suffer the consequences if I am wrong. But I will never be indecisive. I learned that the hard way. I was in a NRA small firearms police development training. I get to go to these things because of my standing in the industry. I learned how to dismantle and reassemble a gun in the dark in seconds, and on the range I was in the top 10% in shooting accuracy. But in the scenario part of the training, where you are placed in actual situations that cops face every day, I failed miserably, because I was indecisive. In the scenario I was in, I tried to talk to an old man who seemed crazy and was threatening me, but I had no tripwire decision skills. I let him get too close, and I was killed. The experienced SWAT cops laughed at me. The guys I had humiliated on the range would have never let the crazy guy get so close. I learned my lesson. Are you learning yours? The professionals have a very simple code to live by: you stay away from trouble whenever possible, using your advanced states of awareness. You walk away from situations you can walk away from. And, if you can't leave, you finish it. Right there. But don't think this is anything like the Hollywood attitude of Sly or Arnold. It isn't. In the real world, real fights last only a few short seconds. There are no trading of blows, no toe-to-toe swing fests, no benign wrestling. When real fighters get in a fight, they mean to take you down in the first move, and finish you with the second. Bam, bam, and it's over. And there's no gamesmanship, no fair play, no rules at all. Hochheim, W.W. Hochheim is a 23-year military and civilian police veteran, with black belts in Filipino, Japanese, and American martial arts. He is the president and founder of the Scientific Fighting Congress, the parent organization of his Congress of American Knife Fighters. He currently tours the country teaching tactical hand, stick and knife combat to soldiers, enforcement, martial artists and civilians. Hoch specializes in teaching simple and easy-to-learn truth about carrying deployment of a folding knife along with a multitude of amazing and highly FN. The professionals know you cannot rely on a gun to save you. In the levels of force understood by soldiers and cops, there are just 4 truths. You cannot rely on your gun to be there when you need it. You can't shoot an obnoxious person who isn't lethally threatening you. Guns can't make you safe without lots of training and cold tripwire decision-making skills. So, you must have a minimum of physical skill so you can use when in danger. TRS produced Hawk's instructional video package tactical folder teaching you the realities of street knife fighting, effective knife fighting technique ways, the carrying and deployment of a folding knife, the myths and misconceptions of real-life knife fighting, etc. First moves, and that brings us to the really juicy part of this free report. First moves, I'm going to highlight several of our stable of talent in this section: Paul Vunak, SEAL trainer; Chris Clugston, a famous street fighter; Jim West, former Green Beret; Tom Proctor, a famous cage fighter; and Ray Ellingson, a weapons expert who trains police and federal actives. You must understand, we are way past the yellow state now. Your tripwire has been tripped, your escape options are closed, you cannot walk away. You are now taking action. You have decided to put whoever is threatening you down. The idea of the first move is simple: you want to put your opponent into an instant, blinding world of intense pain, immediately disabling his ability to fight back. At the same time, you do not want to get hit yourself. You are taking the action to him. If you have decided you must fight to end the threat, if your tripwire has been breached, you must act first. This runs counter to most people's thinking. How can I start a fight? I'm not that kind of guy. This is utter nonsense. The fight does not start when someone lands a fist on your jaw. You will lose waiting for that kind of clear signal. As Paul Vunak tells us, the key to winning is to know you're in a fight before the other guy does. This does not mean you should be some kind of mindless bully, pushing people around. Just the opposite. You know your boundaries, and when you decide it's time for action, you act. Paul, by the way, in his thousands of street fights all over the world, from the back alleys of Manila to the sidewalks of Brooklyn, has almost never been in a fight that lasted longer than a few carat Taktarov, only a carat. There are few people in this world who have the talent to master any thing that they want to. Oleg Taktarov is one of those men. By the time he was 18, he already held a junior national Russian jiu-jitsu title. After a 2-year stint in the Russian military, he became the premier hand-to-hand instructor in Russia. His contacts included, but were not limited to, Russia KGB, Spetsnaz, Russian SWAT teams and Special Division Alpha, a super elite unit of 180 superbly trained personnel responsible for high-level anti-terrorist missions and guarding the country's top government officials. If that weren't enough, Oleg is also an expert with the best and deadliest Russian light weaponry. After training the best of the best in the Soviet military. Seconds. Almost all fighters agree on the basics of your first move. You must hit, angle, and put him off balance. If you are being attacked, that means you parry the incoming blow, step off center to avoid the incoming energy, and strike your opponent from the side where his balance is weakest. If you have initiated the strike, you strike, move off center, and continue the strike to knock him off his balance. TRS produced an amazing fighting video package with Oleg titled the International Warrior Series. Oleg competed in martial art throughout Russia. Winning the national Russian Sambo and Jiu-Jitsu championships, Oleg went on to take the World Vale Tudo Championship and defeated Tank Abbott to win the title in the Ultimate Fighting Challenge 6. Oleg is truly a proven warrior. Chris Clugston has a great move he calls the pop-up. He invented it after watching a lion take down a Cape buffalo. See Figure A. It's perfect when you are faced with someone coming at you intent on wrestling you to the ground, where most fights end up. You want to step aside, even half a step is fine, just to get out of the train's path, lower your body, use your back foot to root yourself, and push up with your hands as if you were shoving a sack of cement off a window ledge. This redirection of incoming energy allows even a small man to take a much heavier man off his feet and reeling backwards. Figure A. Paul Vunak has a simple technique to both buy time when you are surprised by an attacker, and to stop the aggression in its tracks. It's the eye jab. See figure B. This is not the Three Stooges. All you really want is the flinch response. If you miss his eyes, he will still blink. He can't help it, it's an automatic nervous system response. If you just touch his eyes, they will immediately water and blur his vision severely. If you hit with a full strike, you win the fight. You still need a finishing move, of course. See below. Ray Ellingson explains the off-center concept very well. He insists you never go straight up against any attack, it's just senseless. No martial artist runs up against direct incoming energy. You go offline, and chop them down. By stepping aside, you blunt any incoming energy, and more easily avoid getting hit. You cut your opponent's offensive weapons in half, by putting an entire side of him away from you, and you open him up to 3 obvious, devastating strikes, figure C1. Use your knee or foot to go low, and come down hard on his knee. This is a very vulnerable part of any man, no matter how big or muscular he is. A forceful sideways strike to the knee will topple King Kong instantly. To use your fist or elbow to go middle, and hit him either in the ribs or the stomach. The note, the eye jab is a great technique to buy time, merely grazing one eyeball will make both eyes water profusely. Lower ribs are most vulnerable, but any will do. If you've ever had a rib broken or even bruised, you know much pain you can cause very quickly. You can't even breathe with a stomped rib. The abdominals, unless clenched, are open to strikes and will take the breath out of him. 2. 3. Use the palm or side of your hand to go high and hit him in his throat. In even the strongest man alive, there are no muscles in the throat to protect the tiny bones and vulnerable cartilage there. The carotid artery running up each side of the neck is a pipeline to the brain, and when struck can knock a man out. Figure C. Off-center, go straight up against any attack. As this series of illustrations shows, by simply stepping off-center and redirecting the thrust, you can easily launch a vicious counter. The shield penetrable against even the most expert black belt. In this case, the defender negates a punch by attacking the shoulder of the striking arm. Tom Proctor invented his shield as a way to defend himself against bigger and more skilled men in the cage fights he was in, where there was no place to run. See figure D. The shield is simple and easy to do, but very effective in keeping an attacker at bay, protecting yourself from blows, especially when surprised, and opening him up to one of the above strikes. The Muay Thai kickboxers who fought Tom called this his voodoo defense, because they were unable to get by it. The bottom line skill you must learn in any altercation is that you must start the action, and never rely on being reactive, responding only to actual physical assault. Know your boundaries, and when they are violated and you are forced into action, act. If you are jumped or attacked from behind, get offline as quickly as you can and disable your attacker. Never willingly allow yourself to be on LLL finish moves. Remember that most fights end in a matter of seconds. If you are unprepared, or oblivious to the fact you are even under attack, you will quickly be put down and unconscious. That is unacceptable in today's world, especially when people are depending on you to protect them. On the other hand, once you realize you are in a fight when all your other options are gone, and it's time to act, you, too, must act within the space of just a few seconds. Parry or hit, step off center, and strike, putting him off balance and in pain or shock. Then finish the job. No matter how quick you are in the first second, you will lose the fight if you allow your advantage to pass. Finish it. I've chosen the finishy NG moves of several fighters here, based on their utter simplicity and ease of learning. There is Paul Vunak again, Mark Hatmaker, a very respected American martial artist, Randy Warner, world-class fighter who specializes in going bare-handed against weapons, Mike Goldbach, who trains SWAT cops. Vladimir Vasiliev, a Russian super soldier from the elite Spetsnaz elite forces who escaped to Canada, and Bob Taylor, two-tour Vietnam veteran, U.S. Army Rangers Spec Op. the headbutt/arcwy. I note, grab the back of your opponent's neck and thrust the top of your head upward into the nose of your opponent while you pull his head downward. One of the best finishing moves is the headbutt, see figure E. As Paul Vunak teaches, you can do it wrong and still win the fight. Your head has the weight and solidness of a bowling ball, and by simply smashing your upper forehead against the face of your opponent, you are hitting him with tremendous disabling force. Warning, do not close your eyes while delivering a headbutt, or you may seriously disorient yourself. Just grab his ears or the hair at the back of his head, and ram your 20-pound skull into his nose. Paul, in reality, as soon as you deliver this blow, it's lights out and the party's over. Even if you miss his nose, anywhere you do hit will deliver knockout strength trauma. Paul also likes the ear slap, saying it's like taking a sledgehammer to the side of someone's head. Don't punch, you'll hurt your hand. Just cup your hand and slap hard, creating a disorienting and disabling vacuum blow. Another move, favored by Mark Hatmaker, and others, is the choke hold. But be warned, as always you must take responsibility for delivering any finishing blow. The choke hold is dangerous, and if you do not release him when he passes out, you can kill him. This is not about killing. I am not a killer, and I don't believe you are, either. This is about self-defense and survival when all other options are gone. If you are attacked by a larger, meaner, and more skilled opponent, and you cannot run away, you must be prepared to put him down to save your own life in the fastest way possible, regardless of the threat to his health. In the choke hold, figure F, you cut off the blood supply to the head via the carotid artery. Get behind him, put your elbow under his chin, so your bicep covers one side of his neck and your forearm the other, and lock your other hand over your arm and squeeze. Figure F note, pressing the bicep and forearm into either side of the windpipe will cut off the blood supply to the head. By locking your arms together and pressing down on the back of your opponent's head, you will knock him unconscious in seconds. Use caution with this. C36 The thigh kick note, forget the kick to the groin, a far higher percentage shot is a hard kick to the backside of the thigh where the sciatic nerve runs. This will disable your opponent with a wicked Charlie horse. Mike Goldbach may appear to be a normal everyday guy with no great size, strength, or agility, but he retired as a light heavyweight in kickboxing without ever being defeated or having his championship taken away from him. The finishing techniques that Goldbach brings to the table are simply devastating. They have been proven simple and highly effective by Goldbach in the ring as well as countless of street brawls and bar fights. Hitting the thigh produces an immensely painful Charlie horse that will take him to his knees, unable to walk. You've seen this injury in football games. The groin is a low percentage strike, because men can quickly close their thighs to protect the valuables there. But if you have an open shot, take it. It's instant game over. I don't like the way many storefront martial art classes teach women to kick men in the balls. It looks easy in the movies, but if the guy is in an aggressive stance, it is almost impossible to kick him in the groin. You can do it if he is unaware you are kicking, but that is not the situation you usually find yourself in. Still, the groin can be an excellent target, as shown below. Bob Taylor, one of the shorter men we work with, but also one of the meanest and most skilled, likes to drop to one knee, deliver an uppercut with his fist to the groin, much easier to control than your foot. Grab him and twist, he says. Taylor also uses his shoe effectively, hitting the shin, sliding down and stomping the tender bones of your opponent's foot. He calls it the shin rake, and you can imagine how painful it is. Figure H, the shin is a very tender place, again with no muscle over it no matter how beefy your opponent is. And the foot can be crunched easily, unless covered by steel boots. Taylor also points to the foot as your escape hatch if you are attacked from behind and held in a bear hug if you can't get your hands into his eyes, or behind you to twist his testicles, then stomp down on his foot with your heel. He'll let go. Figure H shin rake and stomp. Note, when grabbed from behind, simply dig your heel into the shin of your opponent and scrape downward. To add insult, also stomp down hard on top his foot. Note, an easy way to force a large opponent to the ground is to step on his foot, anchoring it down, and bend your knee into his knee. Figure I Vladimir Vasiliev discovered a unique strike, while in combat, that allows you to take your opponent out without taking your hands out of your pockets. You step hard on his toe, even if he's wearing hard shoes, push your knee into his knee, and follow through. You can use either foot, to either of his feet. Figure I, the human body is not designed to withstand force on the knee like this. You, going forward, are making a natural movement. Him, with his knee going backward, will suffer damage and go down. Randy Warner points out the finishing targets you need to know about: break the nose, and you will blind him with pain. Take out his eyes, and he cannot see to attack you. Randy uses his thumbs. Take out his air, and he cannot breathe. The carotid artery, the esophagus, windpipe, or his floating ribs. His esophagus attack is amazingly effective. Figure J. You stick a finger in the soft V just below his Adam's apple and push down. Immediate pain, and you will drive him to his knees. Keep pushing, and you will cause damage to his windpipe. Figure J. The throat jab. Note, by forcing your finger into the soft V just below the Adam's apple you will drive a large person quickly to his knees. Add more force and you damage the windpipe. Note, place your hand on your opponent's chest and quickly throw up a crushing elbow strike through the chin. He is now severely disorientated and his throat is wide open for a strike. Lastly, if you are pinned in a corner by a larger attacker, Jim West teaches a simple technique called a chin blast. Figure K, place your hand on the chest of the aggressor and quickly drive your elbow upward. This will snap the head back furiously, causing instant disorientation and opening up his throat for your hand or elbow. CONTFLN against weapons. Fighting barehanded against weapons. Next to fighting against multiple opponents, this is the most asked for advice we get. I cannot show you how to fight against multiple opponents here, because the skills take more practice and more finesse than I can show you in print. You need to see a videotape to understand how to easily outgun more than one attacker. I have several recommendations below. I also cannot show you how to disarm someone pointing a gun at you, because it is too complex to explain in print, though still easy enough to learn when seen. You need to see a video demonstration. I suggest Randy Warner and Bob Taylor's gun and knife disarmament tape, also suggested by Col. Tom Brown, publisher of Soldier of Fortune magazine. You can call TRS and ask for it. I can give you clear advice about fighting barehanded against someone armed with a knife. As Paul Vunak says, run. You will be cut in a fight against a blade. Know that going in. Never mind that Hollywood says you can fight against a knife and not get bloody. It's just not true in the real world. However, sometimes you cannot run, and you must take immediate offensive action against the knife, whether you get cut or not. Your life is at stake, and possibly the life of loved ones depending on you. Paul, an expert in Filipino knife fighting, has a simple rule: you must defang the snake. That means, do not fight against the knife, but fight against the hand holding the knife. You must arm yourself to do this. Use a stick, a bar stool, a car antennae, anything hard you can lay your hands on. A trash can lid. Vladimir teaches ripping your own belt out and using it as a whip with the buckle on the business end. You can also whip out your wallet and use it as a stinging leather strap. Also, take any magazine, roll it up tight, and it becomes as solid as a steel bar. A magazine, also, can be whipped flat. Hitting any part of your attacker's body with the spine of the magazine will cause intense pain and take off chunks of exposed flesh. Try using a magazine against a cardboard box, and see the instant damage you can do. Using your improvised weapon, smack his hand, not the knife in his hand. A hard whack will numb the hand or knock the knife free. The very instant this happens, go in off center and take him out. Again, this is high-risk fighting, but if you are faced with trying something, or dying, you now at least have options. Bonus section ***** I / Dirty tricks. Jim West doesn't fight fair. If he finds himself suddenly in a fight, he will throw coffee and spit liquids into his opponent's face, causing an automatic wince that gives Jim an extra second to make the first real strike. Bob Taylor showed me how to take my glasses and suddenly throw them at my attacker's face. The guys who smoke know that a burning cigarette tossed towards someone's face makes them back away and get off balance. Paul Vunak teaches in his new RAT course to SWAT cops that biting is absolutely permissible in any fight. It's immediately painful, and the person being bitten will do anything to get your teeth off him, opening himself up to your strike. If you are surprised and taken to the ground, bite. Tom Proctor, the cage fighter, has learned how to reverse a bad situation where he suddenly ends up on the bottom, turn onto your back like a turtle and start kicking like a girl. Just kick, a flurry of strikes that won't allow your opponent to get close without taking a whack in the face or the ribs or the groin. Never forget that anything you are carrying can be a weapon: that flashlight, that glass of water, even a stiff floppy disk from your computer. Got a pencil or pen? Jam it firmly against the palm of your hand, extending it out along your index finger, and jab. Go for the soft targets outlined above. Don't have a gun in your house, but found someone prowling? Use a baseball bat or golf club. Swing if you have the room, jab if you're in a cramped space. And most important, once you get the upper hand, finish it. Your opponent isn't playing by any rules, and you can't either. Remember, everything is fair in a real fight. The only thing that counts is that you get away safe, and protect your loved ones. I hope this has helped. It's a written version of the pep talk I give as advice when men track me down and ask for personal advice. This is good stuff, used by guys who aren't shy about admitting they fight. It's self-defense, against a world that occasionally wants to eat you for lunch. If you are interested in seeing any of the videos we offer which cover the above material and much, much more in serious detail, we want you to have them at a special discounted price. Why? Because, my goal is to reacquaint men with the basics of self-defense and protection of the weak and vulnerable. It's become a lost art, outside of the military and police worlds. Except for the bad guys, who have never lost the will to study how to hurt and humiliate. I have a recommendation for you, however. Of all our titles, and we stock more than 36 different training videos, I believe the best one to start with is Paul Vunak's first tape. It's been a worldwide bestseller for almost 8 years, and I know from personal experience that learning from Paul gives you the fastest and easiest path to learning how to fight like a professional. Overnight, Paul can teach you skills that will place you among the most knowledgeable and effective fighters on the planet, and what he teaches you sticks, too. It's easy to learn, easy to remember, and easy to use if you're ever forced into fighting. Paul's tape is called Street Safe, and it's been used as training for Navy SEALs, big city SWAT cops, and all kinds of official, and unofficial, federal agents who need to learn how to fight over night for jobs that would take them far away from safety. We've sold thousands of Paul's tapes at $39. In fact, it's selling for that price right now in several markets. But as an introduction to TRS, I want you to have it for just $29. You risk nothing, because you also get a 6-month unconditional 100% money-back guarantee of satisfaction, the same one we put on all our products. Take 6 entire months to examine, train and use this video. And if you aren't happy, for any reason, or for no reason at all, simply send it back, in any condition, and you will receive a prompt refund of your money. No questions asked, and no hassles, either. To order, simply call 1-800-899-8153, Department State Route 11, and tell whoever answers you want Paul Vunak's free report deal, and we'll handle it from there. You can use your credit card. Or, you can fill out and fax the attached order form. Or, if you prefer to pay by check or money order, payable to TRS, simply fill out the form and mail it with your payment to TRS, 606E. Acequia, Visalia, California, 93292 Department State Route 11. No matter how you order, your video will be shipped by return mail. Do it now. Don't you feel the beginnings of a new confidence, just knowing what little I taught you here in this report? The well-rounded man takes care of what he needs to take care of. And you, as a man, need this information to help protect yourself and your loved ones. Order your tape right now, while you're rethinking about it. It's the right thing to do. Threat Response Solutions 606 East Acequia Avenue, Visalia, California, 93292 TRSdirect.com